Ladies and gentlemen, back to the channel. Today we've got another UFC preview and predictions. The main event this weekend in Glendale, Arizona. It is going to be Israel Adesanya and Marvin Vettori for the second time at UFC 263. The co-main event is the rematch between Diaz and Figueiredo and Brandon Moreno. And also Nate Diaz is back. He is taking on Leon Edwards. And we've got 14 fights again for this card in Glendale, Arizona. And folks, if you have not yet though, make sure to subscribe button down below for more UFC here on the channel. Let's get into the full card breakdown. So we start in the heavyweight division between Carlos Felipe and Jake Collier. We're going to start first here with Jake Collier, the former middleweight and the former RFA middleweight champion, of course, now fighting at heavyweight. Collier's UFC run's been weird. He entered the UFC, again at middleweight, lost a couple fights, went up to light heavyweight, lost to Devin Clark, picked up a win, and then took a couple years off. Took 3 years off of the UFC or off of MMA in general. Came back, they gave him Tom Aspinall, and Tom Aspinall knocked him out in 45 seconds in Abu Dhabi. So he comes back on the Hermanson Vettori card. He beats Jan Vellante. Now, Jan Vellante, not a great heavyweight as well. I mean, not a good heavyweight, but Jake Collier won on that card. It was the first fight on the Hermanson Vettori card. He won 30-27 in all three scorecards. It was a bad fight. It wasn't a very good fight, but Jake Collier got the job done. Yeah, I mean, this is, I hate to say it, but it's kind of low-level UFC heavyweight fighting. Jake Collier, not the best heavyweight. He does have some decent hands, but yeah, I mean, there's really not much to say. Collier's 12-5 coming into this fight. Notable wins in the UFC are, yeah, there really isn't one. I mean, Jan Vellante is probably the most notable name. Other than that, Jake Collier currently does not own a win over a UFC fighter right now. I mean, I'm not sure if Jan Vellante is still in the UFC, but if he is, it's Jan Vellante, and that's his only win in the UFC. Again, just not great results out of Jake Collier. Let's talk about his opponent, though, in Carlos Felipe. And Felipe lost his last fight. I mean, no one's telling me otherwise. Justin, the bad man, Tafa, I thought won that one. It was a good fight. Holloway Cater, first card of the year, but yeah, they gave it to Carlos Felipe. I don't know, it was a split decision. I definitely though thought Justin Tafa won that fight. Before that, for Carlos Felipe, he beat Yorgan De Castro, but like, what has Yorgan De Castro done? I mean, he came to the UFC, knocked out Justin Tafa, so we're like, okay, Yorgan De Castro pretty solid. And then he hasn't been the same since. Lost to Georgie's Danho in his last fight. I believe Yorgan De Castro now at the UFC. And then Felipe's first fight in the UFC lost to Sergey Spivak by majority decision to Figueiredo Benavides 2 in Abu Dhabi. So it's going to be Carlos Felipe's first fight in the USA because he had a bunch of fights in Brazil before making the walk to the UFC. And then all three of his UFC fights so far have been on Fight Island in Abu Dhabi. Felipe coming to this fight, though, with a record of 10-1. He's a boxer, pretty good boxer. I mean, you saw in the Justin Tafa fight, they kind of did the whole boxing thing where they put both their heads together and they just start throwing body shots back and forth. It was a good fight. It was a really good heavyweight fight. Now, in this fight, though, with Felipe and Collier, I think Carlos Felipe is going to win this one. I don't think Jake Collier is at the boxing level that Carlos Felipe is, and that's really not saying much because, again, this isn't the best UFC heavyweight fight you are going to see, but I still got Carlos Felipe to win this one. I think he's going to outbox Jake Collier in this fight. I think if you have to get a cardio advantage, I'm going to give it to Carlos Felipe as well. I've seen him go 3 rounds, and I've seen him keep swinging in the 3rd round in the Justin Tafa fight. Jake Collier, we haven't really, towards the end of the Jan Vellante fight, he started slowing down a little bit, so I'm just going to go with Carlos Felipe, though. Overall, I think he'll probably be able to get the job done. Do I think he finishes it? I don't think so. I think he's probably going to win a decision, and yeah, we're going to give Carlos Felipe the win. Now we've got Ziam and Luigi Vendramini. We're going to start first here with Luigi Vendramini. His last fight was a win over Yesenia Yari. He won by KO in the 1st round. That was on Home and Aldana over on Fight Island. That was his last fight, and then before that, he lost to Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. He got caught with a flying knee. Pretty unfortunate. It was a pretty cool knockout by Elizeu Zaleski dos Santos. That was in São Paulo, Brazil. It was on Santos and Eric Anders. Eric Anders we're going to see later on this card as well. And that's been the UFC run so far for Luigi. He is currently 1-1 in the promotion. Overall record, though, of 9 wins and 1 loss. Vendramini can get it done on the ground. He can get it done on the feet as well. Just a really good, well-balanced fighter in all. So that's Luigi Vendramini, the Italian stallion. Let's talk about his opponent, though, in the smile killer, Ziam. And Ziam's last fight, I mean, kind of a weird decision. He did win against Jamie Mullarkey. I mean, it was a close fight, don't get me wrong. I don't know about the decision, though. They gave it to Ziam, and then before that, he lost to Don Madge on UFC 242. Habib versus Poirier. Lost that one by unanimous decision. Ziam, honestly, I mean, like, Ziam and Luigi Vendramini are kind of the same fighter. I mean, they can get the job done on the feet. They're pretty solid on the ground, too. We've seen Ziam get submissions off of his back and on the ground in various other promotions. The same with Vendramini. We have seen that he can get submissions on the ground as well. I would give the small striking advantage, though, to Luigi Vendramini. Obviously, just got the big head kick knockout in his last fight. For Ziam, though, I think the pathway to victory for him has got to be using the ground game, trying to take this one to the ground. And that's why I'm going to go with Ziam to pick up the win here. I think, again, if this fight stays on the feet, if it's a kickboxing fight, Luigi's going to win this one. But I think if Ziam can use his wrestling, use jiu-jitsu, take Luigi Vendramini to the ground, I think he's probably going to be able to win this one. So I'm going to go with the Ziam decision win. I think he gets it done via the ground game, but we'll see what happens. Next up, we've got a real interesting fight here between Steven Ocho Peterson and Chase Hooper. We're going to start first here with Chase Hooper. So, last fight against Peter Barrett. We got to talk about this one. Hey, I picked Chase Hooper to get the job done in that one, but the commentators, they're acting like Chase Hooper is just some amateur fighter. He's not ready for the UFC. Yeah, okay, yeah. Is Chase Hooper not the best right now? No, but you got to think about it. Chase Hooper is 21 years old. He's 21. Yeah, was he losing that fight to a slippery Peter Barrett? Yeah, he was, but he wasn't completely out of it. And then, of course, at the end of the fight, with about a couple minutes left in that one, 2 minutes left in the fight, I mean, Hooper goes for the Imanari roll. He catches Pete Barrett, and then he catches him, and he gets the knee bar, or as a heel hook, and he finishes the fight. I mean, absolutely tremendous. They didn't even give him performance of the night for that. It was ridiculous, but really good win for Chase Hooper, and it shows, like, hey, he can get beat up for the first 2 rounds of his fight, and he can still come back and win it. Now, you might have been down on Chase Hooper because of the Alex Caceres fight, and I get where you're coming from. I mean, that wasn't a great fight for Chase Hooper. He was blocking punches with his face in that one, and it's not what you wanted to see out of Chase Hooper, but a veteran like Alex Caceres, who's now on, what, a 4-fight winning streak, looking to try to break into the top 15, maybe? I don't know, but Chase Hooper didn't look great in that fight, but that's okay, because again, Caceres, a good fighter. And then his first fight in the UFC, Daniel Tamor, solid fight for Hooper, got him to the ground, finished him by TKO. That was all you wanted to see out of Chase Hooper in that fight. And now, his first Contender Series fight, where he didn't get the contract, didn't look great when he started out. He came back, though, ended up winning the fight in the second and third rounds. In the first round, he got dominated. Second and third, turned around, won that fight 29-27. And yeah, Chase Hooper, though, coming into this fight with a record of 10-1-1. Now, his striking's not good, all right? And if Steven Ocho Peterson's going to win this fight, it's going to be through the stand-up game. And I know Steven Ocho Peterson's ground game is very good as well, so it's a little bit concerning overall for Chase Hooper. But again, Chase Hooper's not going to beat really anyone in the UFC with the stand-up game. He's just not. He's got to take down Steven Peterson in this one, and he's got to try to submit him or use his ground advantage to win this fight. Now, it is definitely tricky picking Chase Hooper always in his fights, because again, you saw him in the slippery Pete Barrett fight. He was losing. He was definitely losing. So again, Chase Hooper, his stand-up game, not good at all. His ground game, though, once he gets guys to the ground, he drowns them. He does pretty well. You saw that in the Pete Barrett fight. You saw that in the Tamor fight. So that's Chase Hooper coming in this fight again with a record of 10 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw. Let's talk about his opponent, though, in Steven Ocho Peterson. Now, we haven't seen Peterson for a while. I believe the last time he was fighting was Rodriguez versus Stevens 1, the one in Mexico. He knocked out Martin Bravo, got him with the spinning back fist. Cool, 1 KO of the night on that card. Before that, he lost to Alex Caceres, lost to Violent Bob Ross Luis Pena, won a couple of fights. I mean, Steven Peterson's been fighting the UFC it seems like it's been a while, but he debuted in 2018. It feels like Steven Peterson's been around for a very long time. He is 31 years old, and he's had a lot of fights. He had 27 fights at 31. So, I mean, there's that. But Peterson's been fighting professionally since 2010. Now, Peterson's ground game is what he is known for. Of course, in the Bravo fight, though, he did knock him out with the spinning back fist. So, the stand-up game for Peterson is obviously where he's going to try to win this fight. I think this fight's pretty simple on paper. Do you think Steven Peterson is going to be able to keep this fight standing? Do you think he's going to stuff a couple takedowns or hell, an Imanari roll? Do you think he's going to be able to keep this fight on the feet? Or is Chase Hooper going to take him to the ground, and is Chase Hooper going to do what he did to Tamor and to an extent what he did to Peter Barrett once he did get him to the ground? Because Chase Hooper, don't forget the slippery Pete Barrett fight. I mean, there was points in that fight where he did have that heel hook. He didn't finish it, but still, he had it, and he was threatening with it. So, it's a tough fight. Again, it's always tough picking Chase Hooper. It just is. Now, he does have the name value, and he's only 21 years old. So, this is another thing. Chase Hooper will probably not be fighting at this weight class. He will not be fighting at 145 in a couple years. I mean, Chase Hooper might end his career as a 170-pounder. Just because he's 21 years old. He's still improving as a fighter, and he's still very young. So, Steven Peterson, though, the veteran, coming into this fight with the record of 18-9. In this fight, though, okay, I'm taking Chase Hooper. Now, I don't feel good about it at all. Yeah, I really don't, because I thought he was going to run right through Pete Barrett. I thought he was just going to take him down and beat him down there. And, okay, yeah, I kind of picked him to beat Alex Caceres. That was kind of hope, but still, I don't know. This is a tough fight for Hooper, especially against these veteran guys. And again, yeah, has Peterson only been in the UFC for 4 years? Sure, but he's been fighting for a very long time. I mean, when Peterson made his UFC debut, or when he made his pro debut, whoa, Chase Hooper was like 10 years old. Okay, I'm still taking Chase Hooper to win this fight. I'm not confident at all in it. Again, if Hooper's going to win this fight, he's going to drag him to the ground and he's going to try to submit him. Now, Steven Pearson, though, a very good submission artist as well. He's never been submitted in his career either, so I'm going to take Hooper by decision. Again, not confident at all, but that's what we're going to go for. Now we've got Frank Camacho and Matt Frevola. We're going to start first with Frank Camacho. So his last fight was a fight that he did lose. It was against Justin James. He lost that fight by TKO in the first round, 40 seconds into that one. He also missed weight on top of that. It was on Blades and Volkov in the UFC Apex. And before that, he fought Beneil Dariush, top 3 lightweight in Beneil Dariush. Back Maia Askren in Singapore. He got submitted in the first round by Rene Kachoke in that one. And before that, picked up a TKO win. And then before that, went on, again, what a losing streak, but Frank Camacho's been fighting some pretty good fighters. I mean, just look at these names. Again, Dariush, Jeff Neal, Drew Dober. That was when he was, though, at 170. Of course, he went down to 155 to fight Dariush and James. Obviously, he lost both of those fights. He also fought Li Jingliang, too, as well at welterweight. I mean, just a lot of solid names Camacho has fought against. Now, 22-9, 31 pro fights for Camacho. He's been fighting professionally since 2005. Very long time, and he has been knocked out 5 times in his career, so that is a little bit concerning, and especially just most recently in the Justin James fight. Couldn't get going in that one because, of course, that fight was only 40 seconds, but got knocked out pretty quickly in the Dariush fight, got taken to the ground pretty much right away, and he got subbed as well. So Camacho, again, coming off of this 2-fight losing streak. The last win was the knockout win of over Nick Hein on Gustafsson and Smith over in Stockholm, Sweden, back in 2019 in his lightweight debut in the UFC. Yeah, that's Frank Camacho. Again, coming to this fight, though, with the record 22 wins and 9 losses. We're going to talk about his opponent in Matt Frevola. And for Matt Frevola, the last fight for him was an Arman Tsarukyan loss, UFC 257. It was weird because Frevola was supposed to fight Amino Zaitar, which we picked as Zaitar to win, but then Zaitar, of course, had something in a mysterious bag up to his room. We still don't know what that was. And then, yeah, Tsarukyan was supposed to fight someone else, and they just ended up fighting each other. Frevola lost that one, though, by unanimous decision. Tsarukyan got the win in that fight. Before that, for Matt Frevola, though, beat Valentin Barbaros Luis Pena by split decision over on the Joanna and Watterson card. And before that, beat Jalen Turner by unanimous decision on a UFC 236. Holloway Poirier 2. And then before that, had a draw against Lando Groovy Venata. And then his UFC debut was a loss. KO loss to Marco Polo Reyes, which is not great to see, over in St. Louis, Missouri. Dubu Choi and Jeremy Stevens. And then he got into UFC by winning on the Contender Series against Jose Flores back in 2017. Matt Frevola, again, a great ground game out of him. Camacho is the striker. So, again, another one of these fights, pretty simple. Can Camacho keep this fight on the feet and work his stand-up game against Frevola, or can Frevola drag him down to the mat and put him away down there? I think it'll be the latter here. I think Matt Frevola is a better grappler, obviously, and I think all around, Frevola is just a better fighter. I think he'll be able to take Camacho down in this fight. He's going to be able to probably submit him in this one. Camacho has been submitted by Beneil Dariush, and I mean, again, it's Beneil Dariush, very good fighter, but I think Frevola is going to be able to do the same here. Camacho's been in there against a lot of top guys, but I think Frevola is going to be able to submit him. I think he's probably going to be able to take him down, and that's why I'm going to go with Matt Frevola to pick up the win again by submission. Now we've got Alexis Davis and Pannie Kianzad. We're going to start first here, the former title challenger in Alexis Davis. Now our last fight, it's a winner versus Sabina Mazo. Won that one by unanimous decision. Really showed how good her ground game is. It is kind of shocking. Yeah, I picked Sabina Mazo to win that one, but holy crap. I mean, Alexis Davis put it on her, took her down, ruthless pressure on the ground, and yeah, Alexis Davis got the win. And we were looking at, okay, she's on a 3-fight losing streak. She's coming back up to bantamweight for the first time. Now her flyweight run wasn't great. I mean, she came in, beat Liz Carmouche by split decision, then fought Kaylin Kuchagan, she lost, then Jennifer Maia, then she lost, and then also lost to Viviane Araujo. But still, I mean, those are 3 really good fighters, 3 fighters who are in the top 5, 10-ish of the 125-pound weight class. So nothing really, I mean, it's not that bad for Alexis Davis, honestly, because she comes back and she beats Sabina Mazo. Now, she's been fighting in the UFC for a very long time. First fight was against Rossi Sexton, UFC 161, Rashad Evans versus Dan Henderson. And then she came back, she beat Liz Carmouche on UFC Fight for the Troops 3. And then she beat Jessica Ai on UFC 170, and then she got, that pay-per-view main event against Ronda Rousey, which she lost in 16 seconds. And actually, that wasn't the main event. That was the co-main event. Of course, Chris Weidman and Lyoto Machida main event of that card. But still, Alexis Davis lost to Rousey, then she came back, beat Sarah Kaufman, lost to Sarah McMahon, beat Cindy Dandois, and then, of course, the Carmouche fight, and the rest has been history. Alexis Davis, though, really good ground game, obviously, really good submissions, coming into this fight with a record of 20 wins and 10 losses, but she's been fighting the best of the best, honestly. I mean, some of just the pioneers of the women's divisions. She's been fighting professionally since 2007, so that's just saying something right there. So that's Alexis Davis. We're going to talk about Penny Kianzad now, the former Ultimate Fighter runner-up. Her last fight was a winner versus Sijara Eubanks. She won that one by unanimous decision over on Thompson and Jeff Neal in Las Vegas, and before that she beat Betch Kohea by unanimous decision. Before that, beat Jessica Rose Clark over in Moscow, and this beat Magomed Sharipov and Calvin Kattar. So currently coming off a 3-fight winning streak here for Penny Kianzad. I do believe she is number 11 right now in the bantamweight rankings. Came into the UFC, of course, through the Ultimate Fighter. She lost to Macy Chasson in the main, or in the finale for that one. Of course, that card was, or that Ultimate Fighter was weird. They were at 145, but they took a bunch of fighters from 135 and were like, hey, do you not want to cut weight? So they all went up to 145, they fought, and then you see Julia Stodienko is now a 135 pounder in the UFC, Penny Kianzad is now a 135 pounder in the UFC, and Macy Chasson is now a 135 pounder in the UFC. Season didn't go great. They got some heavyweights, I guess. They got Juan Espino, they got Maurice Green, and yeah, that's really all they got from that season of the Ultimate Fighter. So Kianzad didn't come back to the UFC after that. She had to go fight in Sweden. She picked up a win at bantamweight, and then they brought her back. Lost to Julia Avila, but now, of course, she is on that 3-fight winning streak. Wins over Jessica Rose Clark in the rematch of their fight from Invicta 13, and then the win over Betch Kohea, and that win over Sijara Eubanks. Kianzad, though, coming to this fight with a record of 14 wins and 5 losses, according to her Wikipedia page. Just looking at this real quick, she won the Female Fighter of the Year in 2020, 2018, and 2013 from MMAviking.com. Not familiar with that site. Okay, I don't know. That's Penny Kianzad, though. Record of 14-5. As for my official prediction, though, for this fight, I'm going to end up taking Alexis Davis. I like the ground game. I really liked what I saw out of her last fight. Now, again, I picked against her. I didn't think she was actually going to beat Sabina Mazo. And now, yes, Kianzad is a way tougher fighter than Sabina Mazo. She is a ranked fighter. She's a fighter that is on the borderline of being in that top 10 of the weight class. But I'm still going to take Alexis Davis. I like the ground game. And now, she is a little bit older. She is 36 years old, but she can still go, man. She really can. I think she's going to use the ground game to her advantage. Of course, black belt in BJJ. I think Kianzad's a black belt. Actually, no, she's a purple belt in BJJ, though. Again, that really doesn't matter too much because Thiago Santos does own a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. But I'm going to take Alexis Davis. Again, I like the wrestling out of her. I like the Jiu-Jitsu out of her. I think all around she's going to be better than Penny Kianzad on the ground. And I'm going to go with Alexis Davis to re-enter the top 10 of the UFC Bantamweight division. Give her the win by decision. Fun fight now between Hakeem Dawodu and Movsar Evloev. Going to start first here with Hakeem Dawodu. His last fight was a win over Zubair Tuhugov on UFC 253. Hey, we got that one right. Final scorecards in that one. You got 29-28 for Dawodu, a 30-27 for Dawodu, and a 29-28 for Tuhugov. I don't know how you give that fight to Zubair Tuhugov. I don't get it. We picked Dawodu to win that one, and he got the job done. I thought pretty decisively, but apparently some judge thought otherwise. I mean, the same judge that scored the first Vettori and Adesanya fight for Marvin Vettori. Hey, we'll get to that later. But Dawodu, of course, wins that fight, beats Julio Arce before that, goes on a pretty big winning streak, and then, of course, he lost his UFC debut to Danny Henry by a guillotine on Verdum and Volkov over in London, England, about 30 seconds into their fight, but since then, he has been on a 5-fight winning streak, wins over Austin Arnett, Kyle Bonachek, Julio Arce, Tuhugov, among others. And yeah, Dawodu coming in this fight with a record of 12 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw. He was fighting in World Series of Fighting before he did fight in the UFC. Dawodu's only fought in 2 different promotions his entire career, World Series of Fighting and in the UFC. Of course, he's got the Muay Thai background, he's got the kickboxing background as well, and of course, that is where Dawodu is good at. He's a good striker, really good kickboxing, and again, really good Muay Thai. Now, in the fight against Movsar Evloev, if he can stuff a couple takedowns, if he can keep this fight on the feet, yeah, Dawodu will probably win, but that's going to be trouble. It's very damn tough to stop Evloev when he does decide to shoot on you, and he does decide to pressure you with his wrestling. So that's Hakeem Dawodu. Again, 12 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw. Let's talk about his opponent in Movsar Evloev. Now, again, this is a good fight. It just depends. Do you think Evloev can land a couple takedowns here on Dawodu? I mean, that's how simple it gets. Now, I can break down, oh, Evloev beat Nick Lentz, and one judge gave it to Nick Lentz. I mean, come on now. Again, weird scorecards in that one. But Evloev won that, and we can talk about he beat Grundy, and he beat Barzola, he beat Sungwoo Choi, and how he's the former M1 Bantamweight champion. Of course, we can talk about all that. He's undefeated, he's 14-0, but this fight is pretty simple to me. Okay, do you think Evloev can land 3 takedowns, or do you think Hakeem Dawodu can either stuff a couple takedowns, or do you think he can get back up after Evloev inevitably does land that first takedown? Or do you think Dawodu's just going to stop him on the feet before Evloev gets the chance? That's really what it comes down to in this one. Because Evloev, we know he's a great wrestler, and we know how good of a striker Dawodu is. I think Evloev's going to be able to take him down multiple times in this fight. Every fight that I've seen at Movsar Evloev, he's been able to take his opponent down for the most part, right? I think this one's going to be more of the same. Now, Dawodu, again, a great striker, but we haven't seen his wrestling to where I can say, okay, I think he's going to be able to stuff not just one takedown from Evloev, not just 2, not just 3, probably like 4 around, because Evloev, if he doesn't get a takedown, he's going to shoot again. If he doesn't get it again, he's going to shoot it again. He's going to push you back into the fence. He's going to work the clinch, and eventually he's going to try to set up for that inevitable takedown, right? I think Evloev is eventually going to get to Dawodu here. Again, even if he doesn't land that first takedown, he's going to go for a second, he's going to go for a third, he's going to go for a fourth. Hell, if he doesn't get it then, he's going to go for a fifth. So I'm going to pick Movsar Evloev to win this fight by decision. I think the constant pressure with his takedowns is going to be enough, and I know how good of a gas tank Dawodu does have, but I think Evloev's just going to be a little bit too much for him in this fight. I got Evloev to win this one by decision. I think the grappling is just going to be too much for Hakeem Dawodu. And yeah, that's why we're going with Evloev to pick up the win. Now we've got a #1 contenders fight. It's between Joanne Calderwood and Lauren Murphy. The winner of this fight most likely is going to fight Valentina Shevchenko for the 125-pound title next. So there is that. This is a big fight, honestly, for the division. We will start first with Jojo Calderwood. Her last fight was a win over Jessica I on UFC 257. Showed how good of her stand-up game that she does have. I mean, Jojo looked very good on the feet on that fight. Final scorecards 327s for 2 judges, 129-28 for Joanne Calderwood. Before that, she fought Jennifer Maia in a fight that she shouldn't have taken. She wanted to stay active before eventually she was going to fight Valentina Shevchenko because she had the title shot booked. And then Valentina got hurt, so then she took that fight against Jennifer Maia, lost it by armbar, and then lost the title fight because, of course, Maia then got the shot against Valentina, which, of course, she did lose 4 rounds to 1. But how did Jojo get in that spot to be in the spot to fight Valentina? Well, she beat Andrew Lee by split decision. It was a close fight, UFC 242. Could have gone either way. They gave it to Jojo, and then of course she lost to Jennifer Maia. But before that, before the Lee fight, she lost to Kaylin Kukchagian, beat Ariane Lipski, which at the time was a very big win because Lipski was coming on over from KSW. And before that, won a couple fights. I mean, Jojo's been fighting the UFC for a very long time. Made the UFC debut over on the Ultimate Fighter finale show in December of 2014. She's fought the best of the best in the octagon. You got, Andrade, Calvillo, Lipski, I guess, Kukchagian, Lee, Maia, and Lauren Murphy, another one of these very good fighters. Now, how's Jojo Calderwood going to win this fight? It's going to be on the feet. It's going to be through the stand-up. It's going to be through her brawling style that Calderwood does have. She's going to throw a lot in her fight. She's willing to throw one to take one. And that's what's going to happen. We will see how good Jojo's striking is, and we're going to see how good her takedown defense is in this one, because Lauren Murphy's most likely going to shoot on her. And that's now we're going to transition in it to Lauren Murphy. Now, her last fight was a win over Lilia Shakirova. Rear naked choke win, UFC 254. Now, I'll say it again. I picked Shakirova to win that one. Pure upset pick right there. Didn't come out in our favor, but yeah, Lauren Murphy, pretty decisive victory in that one. Really just took Shakirova down, dominated her on the ground, eventually got the rear naked choke finish. Before that, for Lauren Murphy, she beat Roxanne Modafferi by unanimous decision. Beat Andrew Lee in a fight. Again, she did not win. Andrew Lee won that fight, and I don't know how. It was in Texas. I don't know. Murphy beat Lee in that one. Before that, beat Mara Romero Barella. Came to the UFC, of course, through the Ultimate Fighter show. She lost in the first round of that show, though. It was against Nico Montano. Actually, she was in the UFC beforehand, but she got into the 125-pound division, of course, through the Ultimate Fighter. She was fighting at 135 before that fight. Currently on that 4-fight winning streak, though, is Lauren Murphy. Now, she's probably going to want to get this one on the ground, but she is a solid striker as well. But we're probably going to see Lauren Murphy at least attempt a couple takedowns in this one. Again, she got her first submission win in her last fight. I think she'll probably try to do the same, just considering how good Joanne Calderwood's striking really is. Murphy coming into this fight, though, has a record of 14 wins and 4 losses. She has only lost once at 125, and that would be against Sijara Eubanks over on Rivera and Moraes. Unanimous decision loss over there in New York. So, as for my final prediction, though, in this one, I'm gonna end up taking Joanne Calderwood. I think she wins this fight on the feet, and I think this fight, again, if it's taking place in the feet, Joanne Calderwood's gonna win this one. I like her brawling style in this one. Calderwood's going to come out there and she's going to throw. And she's going to throw a lot in this fight. That's just what she does, honestly. And I think Joanne Calderwood's going to get this title shot finally. I think she's going to win this fight on the feet. Now, Murphy will have her moments of success in this one. Again, she's good on the feet, and she is really good on the ground as well. And again, I think if Lauren Murphy's going to have the best shot at winning this fight, it's going to be through the ground game, but I don't see it happening. I think JoJo Calderwood's going to keep this fight standing, keep this fight where, of course, she probably wants it to be. She's going to use her striking, and she's going to pick up a unanimous decision victory. Now, it is the rematch you didn't know you needed until they gave it to you. Darren Stewart versus Eric Anders. Yeah, this fight is happening again. Sure, okay, we'll talk about the first fight. So it was a weird fight. Eric Anders, Darren Stewart, okay, it wasn't really a weird fight. Eric Anders was gonna win the fight. I mean, he was a couple more strikes away, a couple more. I mean, if Herb Dean wanted to step in there, maybe it could have been over, but Anders was going to win that fight. He was well on his way either to win that fight by decision, or he was going to finish Darren Stewart either in that first round or in the second round. Stewart didn't have much left in the tank in that fight because Eric Anders was doing a very good job limiting any striking that Darren Stewart does possess. So, of course, Anders is probably going to win the fight. He's got Stewart backed up against the fence. Stewart's down on the ground. He's got knee down. And then, of course, what does Eric Anders do? He knees him square in the head when Stewart was down. Now, this was a week after the Petr Yan and Aljamain Sterling fight, so it was back-to-back weeks. It was on Edwards and Muhammad, and it was a no contest because Darren Stewart couldn't finish the fight. Oh, right? I mean, come on. I already talked about this fight. Now, my prediction does change in this one. Like, there's not much to talk about. Darren Stewart came in. Obviously, he lost to Kevin Holland before that by split decision. Beat Maki Pitolo. He's a good striker. Both these guys are very good strikers. Both these guys are very powerful, but I got to give the power advantage to Eric Anders. I'll just give you, like, really the shortened version of this one. They're very good strikers, both of them. Both got a lot of power. And now, going into that fight, I picked Darren Stewart. I sure as hell don't have Darren Stewart again. I'm taking Eric Anders to win this fight. I mean, I've already seen this fight. And if Eric Anders didn't knee him in the face, he was either going to win this fight by decision or he's going to finish him later in that fight. I don't see how Darren Stewart wins this one. Now, could we see a complete 180 of their first fight? Sure, it can happen. I just don't see it happening, though. Eric Anders is going to win this fight. He's probably going to knock out Darren Stewart in the first round. I see it going the same exact way that first fight was heading. Again, don't see a difference. That fight was just happening in March. We're now in June, so not much Darren Stewart can do to change. I mean, yeah, Eric Anders is going to come out with the same exact stuff he had before, and he's going to win this fight by KO in the first round. Now we have got our final prelim fight. It is going to be between Brad Riddell and Drew Dober. We will start first here with Brad Riddell. So his last fight was a win over Alex Da Silva on UFC 253. Won that one by unanimous decision. He got 29-28 across the board for that fight for Riddell. And before that, he beat Magomed Mustafayev by split decision on Felder and Hooker in Auckland, New Zealand. And his UFC debut was a win over Jamie Malarkey by unanimous decision on UFC 243. He got 29-27, 30-26, and 30-26, all for Brad Riddell. Coming into this fight with a record of 9-1 against Drew Dober. Again, Riddell, very good striker, very good on the feet. We haven't seen his ground game much. He has been submitted only once in his career. His only loss has come by submission. It was in 2018, though. Long time ago, but Riddell, very good striker. Same is the case, though, for Drew Dober. And also, yeah, that's Brad Riddell. Again, 3-0 in the UFC, wins over Malarkey, Mustafayev, and Alex Da Silva. Professional record of 9-1. Let's talk about his opponent, though, in Drew Dober. And according to Joe Rogan, the most underrated fighter in the UFC, I mean, okay, a lot of praise for Drew Dober by Joe Rogan in his last fight. Now, was it Joe just trying to hype up the fight against, of course, very good fighter in Islam Makhachev? Yeah, but still, Dober, I mean, he fought an okay fight. He got submitted by Islam Makhachev. Okay, no, Makhachev's so damn good. I mean, his wrestling just overwhelmed Drew Dober. Drew Dober really didn't stand a chance in that fight. Just because that shows you how good Islam Makhachev is. Now, is he going to be a future champion, Makhachev? Maybe. I don't know. Can be him and Charles Oliveira. Not now, but maybe like in 3 years. That would be fun. But Drew Dober lost that fight by arm triangle in the third round. Before that, he did go on a 3-fight winning streak. Wins over Marco Polo Reyes, Nasrat Hakapas, and Alexander Hernandez. Before that, lost to Beneil Dariush by triangle armbar. Then beat John Tuck, beat Frank Camacho, beat Josh Berkman. Came into the UFC all the way back in 2013 on the Rousey Tate Ultimate Fighter finale card. Lost to Sean Spencer there. Came back, though, picked up a couple wins since. And yeah, currently Drew Dober does hold a record of 23 wins and 10 losses. 32 years of age. Now, Dober is good on the ground and good on the feet. Don't get me wrong. What happened in the Islam Makhachev fight, he got dominated on the ground. He got dominated just everywhere that fight went. Okay, that's just Islam Makhachev. Islam Makhachev, again, guy's going to probably challenge for the title very soon. Probably. Yeah, Beneil Dariush, I mean, okay, Dariush, again, top 3 of the weight class, just a tough fight as well. The other loss by submission in the UFC, I mean, there's 2, but one more notably, it's against Abian Mercier. Yeah, okay, that was a while ago. It was UFC 206 over in Ontario, Canada. That was Max Holloway and Anthony Pettis. But again, it's just been a while. And he also got submitted UFC 188 over in Mexico City in 50 seconds. Velasquez and Verdum. But Brad Riddell's not submitting Drew Dober. So that's that. So it's either going to be a stand-up fight, or we might see Drew Dober go to his wrestling in this one. That he does have. He is a pretty solid wrestler, is Dober. But I think this is probably going to be a stand-up fight. This is going to be a stand-up fight between Dober and Riddell. Who do you think is going to be able to crack the other first? I'm going to go with Drew Dober. I like what Dober's got going. And again, he did lose to Makhachev. He did lose to Dariush. But other than those 2 guys, he has not lost a fight since 2016. And I'm going to go with Drew Dober to get the job done in this one. Riddell is a good striker, but you just look at both these guys' resumes. Okay, Drew Dober's been fighting the best of the best, and nothing against the guys Riddell has fought. But, I mean, Dober's fighting Makhachev, Alexander Hernandez, Beneil Dariush. Some good fighters. I'm going to go with Dober to pick up the win in this one. I'm going to say he gets the job done by TKO. Not going to give it around, but I think he knocks him out. Opening the main card, we have got Paul Craig and Jamal Hill. We will start first here with Jamal Hill. So his last fight was a win over Ovince St. Preux. He knocked him out on Hermanson and Vettori in December. Before that, he beat Kilson Abreu. Well, he did, but then he got overturned due to marijuana. But hell, I guess now that's not a thing anymore. You can't get suspended due to marijuana. But at the time, Jamal Hill was on the weed, and he, I guess, yeah, that fight got overturned. But before that, he beat Darko in his UFC debut over on Blazing Dos Santos over in North Carolina. And then Jamal Hill got his way to the UFC by winning on the Contender Series back in 2019. Jamal Hill currently 8-0, should be 9-0. And again, he's such a good striker. Jamal Hill, very talented striker. Now, we haven't seen his ground game really that much, and obviously it's going to get tested in this one, because most likely Paul Craig will either shoot a takedown or work for a takedown in this fight, or just try to get this fight in the mat. Will he try to pull guard? Hey, we've seen Paul Craig do that before, so we will see, just because how good of a ground game Paul Craig does have. But you gotta say the same, that Jamal Hill's striking is so good as well. The power he does have is absolutely crazy. The way he put out Ovince St. Preux was so damn impressive, in a fashion that Ovince St. Preux usually does to a lot of guys. I mean, hell, he did that to Alonzo Menefield most recently, and Jamal Hill made it look easy. So that's Jamal Hill. Again, current record of 8-0, really should be 9-0. 3-0 currently in the UFC, or technically 2-0, but again, he's 3-0. Let's talk about his opponent, though, in Paul Craig. Craig's last fight was a win in his rematch against Shogun Rua. He won that one. I mean, yeah, Rua, I don't know. He didn't look good in that fight. I guess Shogun wants to fight 2 more times, not in the UFC. I don't know. Maybe they'll have him fight like Fedor or someone in Bellator. But yeah, Paul Craig beat him up in that fight. Not a competitive fight. UFC 255, Perez and Dustageta, Diaz and Figueiredo. Just Paul Craig dominant performance. Before that, he beat Antigulov, but I mean, Antigulov not the best UFC fighter. And then before that was the draw against Tua. Close fight. I actually thought Rua probably won that one, but I don't know. It was a close fight. And then Paul Craig before that beat Vinicius Moreira by rear naked choke. I mean, Vinicius Moreira, not a good UFC fighter at all. He just got cut after losing to Ike Villanueva on Fight Island. And then Paul Craig before that lost to Alonzo Menefield by KO, beat Kendi Nchekwu by triangle choke, lost to Jimmy Crute by Kimura, which is a little bit concerning considering Paul Craig's the guy who submits everyone, but Jimmy Crute's really good as well. Before that, he beat Magomed Ankalaev. He threw up a triangle choke with a couple seconds left in the fight, and holy crap, he got it! Yeah, I mean, he beat Magomed Ankalaev by triangle choke. That's by far Paul Craig's best victory. Was on the verge of probably getting cut by the UFC because he lost to Khalil Roundtree Jr. by KO, lost to Tyson Pedro by TKO, and then the UFC debut on Paige Van Zandt versus Michelle Waterson. He beat Henrique De Silva by armbar. He was the former Bama world champion over there at light heavyweight back in 2015 over there in Europe. So Paul Craig coming in this fight though with a record of 14 wins, 4 losses, and that 1 draw to Shogun. I mean, it's pretty simple. How is Paul Craig going to win this fight? He's going to take him down, he's going to submit him, or he's just going to drown him on the ground. How is Jamal Hill going to win this fight? He avoids the takedown, he avoids the ground game, and he knocks out Paul Craig. Now, a lot of people siding with Jamal Hill in this fight, and I think I probably will too. Now, it's not one of these fights I'm all that confident in, though, because Paul Craig could win this fight if he just lands a couple takedowns. If he lands 2 takedowns in 2 different rounds, yeah, maybe Paul Craig ends up winning this one, but I'm going to take Jamal Hill just because of how good of a striking game he does have. So I'm going to go Jamal Hill to get the job done. If you're going to get Paul Craig out there, you're probably going to have to finish him. So I'm going to say Jamal Hill wins this fight by KO in the first round. I think he's going to stun Paul Craig early before Craig can really work his ground game, before Craig can try to tire out Jamal Hill. So that's why I'm going to go Jamal Hill to finish Paul Craig by KO in the first round to kick off the main card. Now we've got a very interesting fight here between Demian Maia and Belal. Remember the name Muhammad. We're going to start first here with the former headliner of the fight night, Belal Muhammad. Now the last fight against Leon Edwards, was he going to lose that fight? Probably, but Leon Edwards, as Colby Covington says, Leon scissor hands. Yeah, poked him in the eye like 3 times in that fight. So the fight did get stopped. Before that for Belal Muhammad, though, he beat Diego Lima by unanimous decision on UFC 258. Beat Lehman Good before that by unanimous decision. Beat Takashi Sato by rear naked choke before that, and beat Curtis Melender by unanimous decision. Before that, Belal Muhammad did lose, though, to Jeff Neal by unanimous decision. Beat a couple of fighters in between. Beat Randy Brown, Tim Means above others. Lost to Vicente Luque back at UFC 205 by KO. And then May's UFC debut against Alan Jouban. Lost by unanimous decision on the Dos Anjos and Alvarez card over in Las Vegas, Nevada. Belal Muhammad, also the former Titan FC world champion over there. I mean, he won that one in 2016. It was a while ago. Now, Belal Muhammad, is he a younger version of Demian Maia? Now, I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't go that far because he doesn't have the jiu-jitsu Demian Maia obviously does possess, but Belal Muhammad, a very good wrestler, and his striking, it's not great, but it has adapted to where it's good, but of course it's not as good as his ground game. Now, Belal Muhammad, again, do you think he's going to be able to beat a 43-year-old Demian Maia? Maybe, but don't forget, Demian Maia's jiu-jitsu is still very good, and he's only been fighting the best fighters. And we're going to talk about Demian Maia in just a second, but Belal Muhammad comes into this fight with a record of 18 wins and 3 losses. Those 3 losses to very good opponents, Jeff Neal, Vicente Luque, and, I mean, yeah, the recently retired Alan Jouban in his UFC debut. So that's Belal Muhammad. Let's talk about his opponent in Demian Maia. So just listen to the names that Demian Maia has fought over, the last 5 years. Okay, here we go. Gilbert Burns, title challenger. Ben Askren, okay, Bellator champion, very good fighter. Anthony Rocco Martin, okay, Lehman Good, okay, whatever. Kamaru Usman, the current champion. Colby Covington, former champion. He lost to both of them. Lost to Tyron Woodley, former champion. Okay, beat Jorge Masvidal, BMF champion. Matt Brown, future Hall of Famer. Carlos Condit, probably future Hall of Famer and former champion. And that's really been the last 5 years for Demian Maia. Like, look at those names. Brown, Condit, Masvidal, Woodley, Covington, Usman, Askren, Burns. Some very good fighters. And yeah, his losses are to Gilbert Burns, Kamaru Usman, Colby, Woodley, Rory McDonald, Jake Shields, Chris Weidman, Mark Munoz, Anderson Silva, and Nate Marquardt. I mean, that's a who's who. And can Belal Muhammad now get into that list of, I mean, all those guys, champions. Now, Nate Marquardt wasn't a champion, but still, all those guys on that list are champions. Jake Shields, no, but Rory McDonald, champion outside of the UFC. Just so many good fighters. And Gilbert Burns, will he be a champion someday? I do not know, but a title challenger as well. Demian Maia has fought the best of the best. Those are his 10 losses. He's 28-10, and look at the names that he has beat over the course of his career. I mean, you got Chael Sonnen, you got John Fitch, you've got, you got some so damn good fighters. Neil Magny, you got Matt Brown, Carlos Condit, Jorge Masvidal, Ben Askren. Demian Maia's fought the best of the best. Now, it's a 43-year-old Demian Maia, though, and that's a little bit concerning, because the last time we saw him in the octagon, it was the Lee Oliveira fight card, the one at the empty arena over in Brasilia. And it wasn't a great fight for Demian Maia. He got dominated through the first 2 minutes that fight did last. And yeah, Gilbert Burns, is he a younger version of Demian Maia? Again, I wouldn't go that far because his jiu-jitsu is not on point with Demian Maia. No one's jiu-jitsu is really on point with Demian Maia, but he just got dominated on the feet in that one. Now, Belal Muhammad, I think he's going to have to keep this fight standing because I don't really think that he's going to want to engage in a grappling fight with Demian Maia. Who really does, right? So it's going to be, is it going to be Belal's stand-up game against Demian Maia's stand-up game, which, of course, Maia's stand-up game not very good, or are we going to see Belal Muhammad's grappling being tested against Demian Maia? I think we're going to see the latter, and I think Demian Maia is going to, of course, I mean, obviously he's going to try, but is he going to be able to get him to the ground? I think he's going to be. I think Demian Maia is going to be able to take down Belal Muhammad, or at least somehow, some way, get Muhammad to the ground via the clinch or whatnot. So, if Demian Maia can get Belal Muhammad down, what's saying that Demian Maia is not going to win this fight? And yes, does Demian Maia have some boring fights sometimes? Yeah. Do I think this fight's going to be boring? Maybe, I don't know, but I'm going to take Demian Maia to beat Belal Muhammad. I'm just going to. I think Demian Maia still got a little bit left, and I know he's 43 years old, and I know he's getting up there in age, and I'm glad they didn't do the Khamzat Chimaev fight against Demian Maia. I mean, I guess it's possible now because Khamzat is coming back, but I'm going to take Demian Maia to win this fight. I think he gets it done by decision. I don't think he's going to be able to put away Belal Muhammad, but I think he's going to be able to use his wrestling really well in this one, and his jiu-jitsu, of course, the Demian Maia famous jiu-jitsu. And I think he's going to win this fight, and Demian Maia is going to pick up his 29th win in his professional career. Now we have got Leon Edwards and Nate Diaz. This fight's happening, and it's going to be 5 rounds. Okay, of course, this was going to be the co-main event for the Michael Chandler and Charles Oliveira card. Obviously, this fight did fall out, and now we get it here. So we get 3 5-round fights on this card. We're going to start first here with the former BMF challenger in Nate Diaz. Lost to Jorge Masvidal in his last fight. Didn't look great in that one. I mean, we're going to keep it simple. Now, there is, was Diaz going to come back in the 4th and 5th rounds? Most likely not. And even if he did, was he going to put away Masvidal? No, he wasn't. So at the very worst case scenario for Masvidal, he's going to win that fight 3 rounds to 2. So I mean, I think we were all in agreement here that Masvidal was going to win that fight no matter what, even if that fight kept going. And before that, for Diaz, he looked good against Anthony Pettis. Don't get me wrong, but what have we seen at Anthony Pettis since then? I mean, he got there. Pettis got into that spot because he closed his eyes and bounced off the cage and knocked out Wonder Boy in a fight that he was getting dominated in. Then after that, he lost to Carlos Diego Ferreira. He kind of beat Cowboy. He really didn't, but they say he beat him. And then he beat Alex Moreno. And then he lost to Clay Collier, right, in PFL. So again, there's that. I mean, Diaz before that had the Conor fights, which were weird. Of course, he beat Conor the first time, lost him the second time. Looked good in the first fight on short notice. Second fight looked good as well, but Conor barely edged out that decision. And then anything before that fight with Conor, I mean, really, you're talking about the Michael Johnson fight, which he won, the RDA fight, which he lost, Gray Maynard when he beat. I mean, Diaz does not fight often, so it's really hard to talk about fights that he just had. 5 fights ago, he was fighting Michael Johnson. And that fight was in 2015 on Dos Anjos versus Cerrone 2 for the World Championship. It has been a while. That was a UFC on Fox card. That's back when Joe Rogan was commentating Fox cards, right? So it's been a while. Diaz is 20-12, but I mean, again, he's been fighting some very good fighters since 2004. Made his professional debut in WEC in 2004. He was on the 5th season of The Ultimate Fighter. I mean, that's saying a lot. Nate Diaz, The Ultimate Fighter, season 5 winner. And yeah, Diaz, in this fight against Leon Edwards, though, is he going to beat him on the feet? Probably not. He's probably going to have to take Leon Edwards down. We're going to see how good Edwards' ground game is. I don't know, man. Diaz lost to Masvidal. I mean, Edwards is a current top 5 fighter. Is Nate Diaz a top 5 fighter at welterweight? I don't know if I can say that, right? So that's Nate Diaz, the former BMF champion, maybe. Was he the champion? Then he lost it to Masvidal. I don't know. That's Nate Diaz. Let's talk about Leon Edwards. And Leon Edwards, yeah, the last fight against Belal Muhammad, yeah, he was winning the fight, but he poked Belal Muhammad in the eye a couple times. I mean, you just can't do that, right? Of course, why the UFC hasn't adapted the Pride gloves, I do not know. Eye pokes are always going to be a problem, but he doesn't beat Belal Muhammad, but no contest him. Hey, Leon Edwards counts it as a win, so there's that. But it's just been the inactivity from Leon Edwards. And again, it's really at no fault of his own. I mean, they say that a lot in the broadcast. He beat RDA back in San Antonio in 2019. Beat Gunnar Nelson before that by split decision. Then backstage, he lost the fight to Jorge Masvidal, but that's all right. Beat Cowboy in a main event in Singapore. Beat Peter Sabata by TKO. Beat Brian Barberena. He beat Vicente Luque. He has not lost since 2015 on that same card that Nate Diaz beat Michael Johnson on, Dos Anjos Cerrone 2. He lost to Kamaru Usman by unanimous decision. And before that, his only other UFC loss is to Claudio Silva by split decision on Shogun in St. Preux over in Brazil. Leon Edwards is going to try to keep this fight standing against Nate Diaz, obviously. He's going to try to outstrike Nate Diaz, because if Nate Diaz was getting outstruck by Jorge Masvidal, Leon Edwards is probably going to be able to do the same. And the odds, I mean, okay, Leon Edwards is around like a minus 500 favorite in this one. What is Nate Diaz, like a plus 400? For good reason. Nate Diaz is a good fighter, but Leon Edwards is a top 5 welterweight. Is Nate Diaz really a welterweight? Not really. He should be fighting at lightweight, and I get why he is fighting a welterweight. Doesn't want to cut all that weight, but still, Leon Edwards is the better fighter all around in this one. He's got the better stand-up game, and he's most likely going to finish Nate Diaz in this fight. And I know it's tough to put away Nate Diaz, but eventually, it's a 5-round fight. If this fight was 3 rounds, I was going to go with Edwards by decision. But in a 5-round fight, I'm going to go Edwards with the late finish here of Nate Diaz. I think he gets the job done probably in the 4th round. And it's just the inactivity. It's that simple. That's why I'm picking Leon Edwards. And I know Edwards hadn't fought in 2 years, but it's just all around, Edwards is better than Nate Diaz. And Nate Diaz is getting up there. He's been fighting for a very long time. Diaz is 36 years old. Leon Edwards, on the other hand, is only 29. Edwards all around is the better striker. And I just don't see how, if Nate Diaz is losing to Jorge Masvidal, how is he going to beat Leon Edwards? Because he got outstruck by Masvidal. He's going to get outstruck by Leon Edwards. Edwards is going to pick up the win. Where does he go from here? He's probably not going to get a title shot because that's going to Colby Covington. I think Edwards probably fights the winner of Gilbert Burns and Stephen Thompson next month. So we'll see what happens there. But I'm going Leon Edwards to pick up the win. I say he gets it done in the later rounds. 4th round TKO finish for Leon Edwards. Now it is time for the co-main event of the evening. It is the title rematch between Deuce Degeta, Deiveson Figueiredo, and Brandon Moreno. Probably one of my favorite fights of last year. I mean, tremendous fight at UFC 256. Obviously, it was a draw. Now, I'll say it right now. I scored it for Brandon Moreno to win. I thought Moreno won 3 rounds and Figueiredo won 2. I can see why, though, you had it 3-2 for Figueiredo. And then, of course, I see why it's the draw because, of course, Figueiredo got deducted 1 point. Yeah, I mean, what a fight that was, though. It was a tremendous fight. I picked Figueiredo to win that fight originally, but in the end, I had it scored for Moreno. Of course, the final scorecards, though, had it as a majority draw. Now, again, like the Anders and Stewart fight, there's really not much to talk about considering this fight just happened in December. Now, I'm going to talk about how I think this fight might be different from the first fight, but I've been breaking down through Moreno's, past, obviously. We know he's a good wrestler. We know his striking was so damn improved in that Deiveson Figueiredo fight, how he stood there and he struck with Figueiredo, something that I didn't think he was going to be able to do. But, Moreno went on a big run getting this title shot. He had a draw against Askar Askarov. He beat Kai Kara-France. He beat Jussier Formiga. Then he beat Brandon Royval. He TKO'd him where Royval kind of separated his shoulder in that one. And then he got the fight against Figueiredo just a month later. Now, this fight is going to change a lot considering both Moreno and Figueiredo just fought late in November at UFC 255, and they took that really short notice main event spot at UFC 256 because 2 fights fell out. It was supposed to be Megan Anderson and Amanda Nunes, and then that got canceled, so then the main event was supposed to be Piotr Jan and Aljamain Sterling. That fight got canceled as well, so the main event then was Figueiredo and Moreno. Props for these guys for taking that fight on such short notice, and now we get to see Moreno and Figueiredo with a full camp. This fight is going to be absolutely crazy. This is going to be a barn burner, and it's going to be different. Obviously, it's going to be different. Now, we will see both these guys on a full camp. We will see these guys after they got a long layoff, because again, that fight was in December. Now we are, of course, into June. Moreno coming into this fight with a record of 18 wins, 5 losses, and 2 draws. Now, we saw a lot of striking. We saw a lot of grappling as well in that fight. Moreno was able to successfully take down Figueiredo, but again, Figueiredo had his moments on the feet. It was just such a damn good fight, man. Go watch it if you have not yet. It's on a free fight on YouTube right now on the UFC's YouTube page. Now, something else to mention, though. Deiveson Figueiredo, he said after the fight that he was sick the night before. Dana White confirmed this, that he went to the ER. They cleared him to fight last second because Figueiredo wanted, of course, to fight, but the night before he felt like crap, and he came in, and then he did fight. So that's something that sticks out to me. It really does, because before we go to that fight between Moreno and Figueiredo, of course, the first fight, I kind of was under the assumption, all right, Figueiredo's probably going to win this fight, he's probably going to win it pretty quickly, and that I think Figueiredo is going to start this reign of dominance upon the 125-pound division. Now, of course, this fight against Moreno, the first fight against Moreno showed that, all right, well, there are some contenders in this division. Brandon Moreno is a very good fighter, and he's 1B in this division, if Figueiredo's 1A, but it showed Figueiredo can get hit, and Figueiredo can be stunned, because Brandon Moreno had Figueiredo wobbled at multiple points in that fight, but Figueiredo had the same. He's throwing that big right that he usually knocks everyone out. You saw Figueiredo stun Joseph Benavidez with that a couple times. He really didn't get the chance to do it against Alex Perez because he just submitted him, but he stunned Tim Elliott with it. He stunned Pantoja with it. He stunned everyone really he's fought with that big right hand, and Brandon Moreno ate that and kept walking forward. So that's to show you how good of a chin Brandon Moreno does have as well, because Moreno has never been finished in his career. Same can be said about Deiveson Figueiredo. So, this fight is so damn good. The flyweight division is back. Both these guys, tremendous fighters. As for my final prediction, though, on this one, I'm taking Deiveson Figueiredo to retain the title. Here is why. The main point for me, one of the main points is, of course, he says he was sick, and he said that he was tempted to opt out of this fight. Of course, he kept going. He went to the ER the night before. He was sick, and he still fought. That's part of it. Part of it is also he's getting a full camp in this one. And Figueiredo had to cut weight twice in a month. to take on Moreno, twice in 3 weeks to fight Moreno. And I know the same can be said about Moreno. He had a cut to fight Frevola, and he had a cut to fight Figueiredo again, but it's a little bit different. Stevenson Figueiredo, don't forget, walks at about, 160? I don't think Brandon Moreno's cutting, 35 pounds to get down to 125. Figueiredo is a big guy, and if he was fighting over there and won championship, he would probably be fighting, at 155, because they don't really let you cut weight over there. So, I mean, Figueiredo is a big dude, and he's getting all this rest, and he's going to be able to reevaluate that first Moreno fight in a fight that, if it wasn't for the illegal groin shot, Figueiredo was going to win that fight on 2 scorecards, and Moreno was going to win it on 1, and Figueiredo would have retained the title. And probably would we have this rematch still? Yeah, we would, but still. Another thing, though, Moreno, in the 5th round, kind of just stopped throwing everything, because he hurt his arm in that 5th round. That's something you gotta pay attention to as well, because if he ended up winning that 5th round, of course, Moreno would have been the champion. I don't think this fight is gonna get to the 5th round, though. I think we will see a stoppage. I think Moreno's gonna get stopped for the first time in his career in this one. I think it's gonna happen. Diaz and Figueiredo, Deuce to get it is that damn good, and on a full camp, and after a 6-month wait, I think Figueiredo is going to put away Brandon Moreno. And I know I talked about how good of a chin Moreno does have. Eventually, he's going to crack. Eventually, Figueiredo is going to get to him. I think constant pressure by Figueiredo. I think Moreno's going to throw a lot too. I mean, there's going to be a point in this fight where Figueiredo stuns Moreno, and then Moreno stuns Figueiredo right back. This is going to be an insane fight. I don't think this fight's going to end in 1 round like some of Figueiredo's fights have done in the past. This is going to be a very close fight. It's going to be a very fun fight. But in the end, I've got Deuce to knock out Brandon Moreno in the 3rd round. I think it's going to be an accumulation of strikes. Eventually, it's going to catch up to Moreno. I think Diaz and Figueiredo retains the championship. And yeah, bring on Askar Askarov, because that fight is going to be a banger as well. The 125-pound division is only getting better. Whoever the champion is, I'm excited, but we are going to go with Deuce to retain the championship. Now, it is time for the main event of the evening. We have got the champion, the middleweight champion of the world, in Israel Adesanya, taking on Marvin Vettori. It is a rematch of their first encounter over in the same arena. This rematch is going to be contested in the Gaia River Arena, I do believe it is, over in Glendale, Arizona. That fight was on Poirier and Gaethje UFC on Fox in April of 2018. Let's talk about that fight first, and then we're going to we'll break it down between Vettori's last couple fights, game plan, Adesanya's last couple fights, and game plan. Okay, I rewatched that fight with Adesanya and Vettori. I don't know how you can score that fight for Marvin Vettori. Vettori won a round, obviously. He won that 3rd round, but Adesanya won rounds 1 and 2 in that fight. Now, Vettori did challenge Adesanya in that one, but Izzy won that one. I don't see how you give Marvin Vettori 2 rounds in that fight. Marvin Vettori is probably the only man on this. I wouldn't say that, but Marvin Vettori is like one of the only people walking this earth that thinks he won that fight. I mean, the UFC will tell you it was a close fight, and some people thought Vettori won. No, those some people are just Marvin Vettori. That's not taking away from Marvin Vettori at all, because he's a good fighter. But what Adesanya said when Izzy and Marvin Vettori were doing their little, it wasn't really a press conference, they were just doing this interview with Michael Bisping during the fight card, of course, last week. Of course, the Rosenstruik and Sakai card, by the way, got Rosenstruik 1st round knockout, right? So there's that. But Adesanya said, your biggest win, your biggest accomplishment is that you say that you beat me. And when in reality, Adesanya won that fight. It's kind of true, but still, Vettori looked good in that fight in the 3rd round. This fight's going to come down to, can Marvin Vettori take down Israel Adesanya? It's that simple. It really is. And we're gonna get into the full breakdown in a second here, but that's the first fight. I had it for Izzy, 29-28. I just don't know how you give 2 rounds to Marvin Vettori in that fight back in 2018. So that is the original fight. That was the first fight between those two. Let's now talk now in full about Marvin Vettori. Okay, so Vettori's last fight was a win over Kevin Holland. Now, did I think in 2021 a win over Kevin Holland would warrant a title shot? No, but Vettori, the big fight for him is the Jack Hermansson win. I still think it is. I mean, the Hermansson win's probably his best win. Now, Jack Hermansson came back, just beat Edmund Shabazian, so good for him. And I think Kevin Holland one day, will he be a champion? No, maybe not, but he will definitely be a top 5 fighter, top 10 fighter for definitely a very long time. So, Vettori in the Holland fight uses wrestling. Kevin Holland just couldn't do anything. It was probably worse than the Derek Brunson fight for Kevin Holland. Vettori, constant pressure on the ground, took him down. Kind of held him there. Didn't really try to advance positioning too much. Didn't really threaten with too many submissions. Like Brunson did attempt an arm triangle choke, but Vettori just dominated on the ground at UFC and ABC 2. Good performance out of him. Now, before that, for Marvin Vettori, he beats Jack Hermansson, of course, in that fight, where he does rock Jack Hermansson in the 1st round. And Marvin Vettori has got good striking, but it's not to the point where he's going to be able to outstrike Israel Adesanya. And we're going to, again, I'm going to talk about all this in a second here. Trust me on this one. But Vettori has good grappling, obviously, and that's got to be how he's going to win this fight. You saw that in the Jack Hermansson fight. He was able to out-grapple what we thought at the time, maybe probably the best grappler in the weight class, or at least one of the best. Vettori beats Jack Hermansson, and before that, he beats Carl Roberson. I'm not sure if I said this in the video, in the iCalvillo video. I mean, you can go watch it if you want. I mean, sure, you can watch my Jessica I and Cynthia Calvillo video back in the summer last year, but I was pretty high on Marvin Vettori at the time. I was like, he's probably going to run through Carl Roberson in this fight. I don't know if I said he was going to be a future title challenger, but at least I was thinking that. Trust me on that one. At least I was thinking it. I knew Vettori was good at that time. Now look at him now. 2 fights after the Roberson fight, he's in a world championship fight. And I mentioned in that video, when he was fighting Roberson, he took Adesanya to a split decision. He took him to a close fight. And don't quote me on this one, but I do believe I said something along the lines of, okay, if they were to do this fight again, it would be interesting. And maybe that's a fight they would want to do in the near future, because Vettori at the time was the only guy one judge out there said beat Israel Adesanya. So for Marvin Vettori, how is he going to win this fight? It's of course gotta be through the takedowns. Now, how did Jan Blachowicz beat Israel Adesanya? He took him down, he kept him down there. Now, was Jan Blachowicz 30 pounds heavier than Israel Adesanya, and was that fight a light heavyweight? Yes, it was. So Marvin Vettori, again, he's gotta weigh in at 185. Of course, Izzy's gotta weigh in at 185 as well. It shouldn't be a tough cut at all for Izzy. For Vettori, he'll get there, trust me. He's never missed weight in his career at 185, so it's not trouble for Vettori. He used to fight 170 back in the day, back in Italy, but Vettori has got to threaten Adesanya with his striking, because that's how Jan Blachowicz did it. Go back and watch Adesanya versus Blachowicz. Mute the commentary team. Just don't listen to them at all. They'll tell you that Israel Adesanya won that fight 3 rounds too. They thought he won rounds 1 through 3. He did not. Jan Blachowicz won that fight. But how did Jan Blachowicz eventually set up the takedowns in the 4th and 5th rounds? Well, he uses striking in the first 3 rounds. And Joe Rogan was like, oh my god, he's biting on every one of Izzy's feints. Okay, he kind of was, but Blachowicz was rolling with the punches in that one. And he was out-striking Israel Adesanya. I'll say that. I thought he won that fight 4 rounds to 1. I thought Izzy probably won the first. But, I mean, Jan looked good in that fight. I can see the case how you can make the case for Izzy winning 2. I don't know how you can say Izzy won 3 rounds in that fight. But back to Vettori, though. Or back to Blachowicz. Blachowicz made Israel Adesanya worry about his striking. And then in the 4th and 5th rounds, he shocked him and took him down twice, and he kept him down there in the 4th and 5th rounds. So Marvin Vettori's got to present at least a little bit of a threat of striking against Israel Adesanya, because if he doesn't, Izzy's going to keep his hands low, and he's going to watch out for the takedown at all times, and that's how Izzy will beat you. He's the style bender. He is so damn good in there, and that's how he beats everyone. So obviously Vettori's got to impose at least a small threat on the feet against Adesanya, and then he's going to have to take him down. It's easier said than done, though. It definitely is. Because even though Izzy did get taken down twice by Jan Blachowicz, Adesanya is not a horrible wrestler. Now, he's not a great wrestler, but he's not that bad. And once you get Israel Adesanya down, you got to be able to keep him down as well. And yes, was Vettori successful in that in the third round of their first fight? He was. But if you're in the Israel Adesanya camp, you got to know Vettori's going to try to take you down. You know he's going to try to out-grapple him on the mat. That's not what I don't think they were thinking out of in the Jan Blachowicz fight. At least I thought, hey, we're probably going to get a stand-up fight here. We're going to see who's the better striker. Is Izzy? Is it Jan? On that night, it was Jan Blachowicz, but I think you got to be, if you're in the Israel Adesanya camp, if you're at City Kickboxing over there in New Zealand, you got to be worrying for the takedown at all times from the Italian in Marvin Vettori. So that's Marvin Vettori coming to this fight, though, with a record of 17 wins, 4 losses, and 1 draw. 2 losses in the UFC are to Antonio Carlos Jr. back at UFC 207. That would be Rousey and Nunez. And then, of course, the Izzy fight back at Poirier Gaethje also had a draw to Amori Akhmedov at UFC 219, Cyborg and Holmes. So that's Vettori. Let's talk about the last style bender in Israel Adesanya. So it is weird. Izzy is coming off a loss. Now, it was at 205, but Adesanya no longer undefeated. He was 20-0. Now Jan Blachowicz is the one in 20-1. Okay. Izzy's gonna have to stop a couple takedowns in this one. If he doesn't knock out Vettori before Vettori gets the chance, it's not gonna happen. Vettori at least some point in this fight is going to try to take down Israel Adesanya. We will see if it was Jan Blachowicz having a weight advantage, or hell, is Jan Blachowicz that good of a wrestler, or is it going to be Izzy's just not that great? It's just not that great of a wrestler. And can Vettori keep him down, and is it not the weight advantage? We will see, because a lot of people think Izzy's going to win this fight, but I can make the case easily here for Marvin Vettori, and I think Marvin Vettori has got a very good chance, and I think out of all of Izzy's title fights so far, you're talking about Kelvin Gastelum, you're talking about Robert Whittaker, you're talking about Yoel Romero, and you're talking about Paulo Costa. I think on paper, Marvin Vettori's got the best chance of beating Israel Adesanya, just because of the wrestling, and just because, I wouldn't say it's kind of exposed about Izzy, but it kind of is. That is, yeah, his wrestling's not great, and if you stand with him, obviously you're going to lose the fight, because Israel Adesanya's striking is so damn good, but you saw Jan Blachowicz take him down and keep him down. Again, was it the weight thing, though? Was it that Izzy weighed in at 200 pounds, and Jan probably coming to that fight was like 225? Maybe. We will see, though. Of course, if this fight stays standing, Israel Adesanya is going to pick apart Marvin Vettori, and he's going to outclass him on the feet. Vettori's a good striker, but he's not to the point of Israel Adesanya. I don't think anyone is at 185. Maybe Robert Whittaker, and I want to see Whittaker fight the winner of this fight. I think that's obviously the next fight. Winner of this fight, I fight Rob probably in November or in December, but Izzy has got to stuff a takedown, and then he's got to outclass Vettori on the feet. I mean, obviously the second part is not that tough for Adesanya. The first part, I don't know, man. I just don't know. This fight is kind of a toss-up fight for me. I really think it is. And now if this fight happened back after the Paulo Costa fight, when Adesanya was at the highest of highs that he could potentially be on, I would say, all right, easy. Israel Adesanya is going to win the rematch against Marvin Vettori. I think he's going to get to him in the first round. I don't know if I can say that now. But again, I think Vettori's got to pose some sort of threat on the feet against Adesanya. Because if he doesn't pose a threat on the feet, Adesanya is going to lay his hands low. It's going to be a big confidence booster for Adesanya, knowing that, all right, I just got to worry for a takedown. If he feels Vettori's best punches and he eats them, because again, Adesanya's got a good chin. He ate some of Blachowicz' best shots, and he kept moving forward. If he does that, and he only's got to worry about a takedown, Israel Adesanya is going to pick apart Marvin Vettori, and he's going to win the fight. So, my official prediction: I'm taking the last style bender, Israel Adesanya, to win this fight. It's close, man. I mean, this is a very close one for me. But I think Adesanya is just a little bit better. And I don't think Vettori's made all the improvements just yet and all the adjustments to where he can beat Adesanya. Yeah, he might be able to take down Izzy, but I just don't think he's going to be able to do it 5 times, and I don't think he's going to be able to keep Israel Adesanya down. And again, it could have happened, definitely, but I think Adesanya is going to get to him on the feet, and I think Adesanya is going to outclass him on the feet. And I think we'll see it. I think Israel Adesanya is going to stuff a couple of takedowns from Marvin Vettori. And if Izzy stuffs a couple of takedowns, what is Vettori going to do? He's going to try to strike with them. But we've seen Israel pick apart Paulo Costa. I've seen him pick apart Robert Whittaker. I've seen him pick apart Kelvin Gastelum. I think Marvin Vettori is just going to be the same. So that's why I'm picking the last style bender, Israel Adesanya, to retain the middleweight championship. And of course, the fight that's next, Robert Whittaker in the UFC's return to Australia in Melbourne. That's got to be it. Run it back at Marvel Stadium. That's what the next fight has got to be. Or I guess do in Sydney, probably Melbourne. But that's for another day. We'll see what happens with that. And folks, thank y'all for watching my UFC 263 preview and predictions. What a card this is. I'm so excited for this Saturday night. Again, there is a crowd one more time over in Glendale, Arizona. It should be a fun one. Of course, the same site where Adesanya and Vettori first fought back over there on Poirier Gauging in April of 2018. So it should be a fun one, folks, though. If you have not yet, make sure to hit the subscribe button down below for more UFC on the channel. We do one of these every single week. If you disagree with any of my predictions, though, make sure to leave a comment and also leave a like if you did enjoy the video. So again, folks, thank y'all for watching, and Mamba forever.